I'm James Faulk. This is a special live edition of North Coast Perspectives. Thanks for joining us. We're producing this live newscast once a week in the age of COVID to offer our members and viewers a one-stop shop for all the most recent facts and figures surrounding the current pandemic. After a quick rise from very few local cases to more than 50, efforts to stop the spread of the COVID-19 coronavirus appear to have been mostly effective in Humboldt County, at least for the moment. According to figures released by the Humboldt County Health Department, Humboldt County currently has 53 cases, with 2 still hospitalized and 50 fully recovered. That's an increase of 1 from last week. California, after moving swiftly to lock down the state, has experienced what some are calling a relatively modest curve in its number of cases, a figure that currently stands at 37,369. The number of deaths in the state has reached 1,469. The U.S., meanwhile, has lost more than 51,000 lives. That's out of a total number of 890,524 cases. Predictably, the debate goes on whether the pain of social distancing and continued lockdowns is worth the value of the lives they save. Protests have broken out across the country as a vocal minority demands the lifting of restrictions to better enable residents and businesses to earn the money they need to survive. Humboldt County suffers from many of these same economic setbacks, yet those we interviewed indicated they believe it important to get the virus under control before loosening restrictions to restart our economy. Now, the headlines. Old Town Eureka has been the center of the local retail world since redevelopment and private investments saved the neighborhood from decay and depredation decades ago. Booklegger, a longtime anchor store on the corner of 2nd and E Streets, in recent weeks has gone from a thriving business dependent on browsing and foot traffic to one struggling to survive in the face of social distancing. Jennifer McFadden, who along with co-owner Nancy Short has owned the store for more than 20 years, spoke with Keith this week on the difficulties presented by COVID-19 on her employees, and the Old Town shopping district as a whole.
We're not entirely closed, but the storefront is closed. Of course, we can't have people in the shop. The primary things that we're doing is that we are able to order new books for our customers and have them shipped directly from the distributor to our customers' homes. Right now, my business partner Nancy and I are staffing the store ourselves. We're taking turns, so there's only one person in the store at a time to process orders, and then we're vigorously wiping everything down with disinfectant. We had to lay off our staff, our beloved staff, which was really heartbreaking, and I hope that that is a very temporary state of affairs. We would really like to get the Booklegger family back reunited very soon in its entirety, but we will have to see how this plays out. It's definitely difficult to have a business that is based heavily on browsing, that people can't browse, that we're not open to the public. We have applied for multiple loans, and it's all been very confusing. It's been a moving target. The rules have changed, and we've gotten different information at different times. I think it is possible that we will be receiving one of the loans, and we'll have to see how that all works. Some of them, they have different parameters for what you can use them for, and they have different time periods over which they need to be repaid, and all of that has to factor into how viable it will be for us. I'm just trying to stay in the moment and handle it day by day, and we have no idea how long this will go on or what it'll look like on the other side. But yes, I would say our employees are our top priority in terms of what we hope to recreate as business reopens, and I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. As much as I want my business to be okay on the other side of this experience, more than that, I want everybody to be okay, and that takes a collective effort. And yes, I am very concerned about what this might do economically, but that has got to be secondary to recognizing each other's humanity and trying to protect one another from the possible reach of this illness.
Greg Foster of the Redwood Region Economic Development Commission said one challenging aspect of the current situation for business owners and agencies like his is not knowing the length and breadth of the shutdown. How much money will it take for people to withstand the burden of shutting their doors and staying healthy? REDEC has answered the call, Foster said, by digging deep into their coffers and offering local businesses the cash loans necessary to stay afloat. They do this even as the risks involved multiply, he said, because that is their primary purpose.
REDEC's kind of unique. We're literally a public agency. We're a special district. There's only 4 employees, and we don't have any funding stream other than the performance of our loans. We're completely self-supporting. We are at risk not only because we're putting out money to try to help folks in new loans through our emergency loan program, but our own existing portfolio, we provided deferrals for the folks there to help with their cash flow, and ultimately we do we do increase the risk profile to us, because if we have a large number of loans go bad, we have reserves now to help us operate and keep us going with negative cash flow because people aren't paying. But if those loans go bad or can never pay in the future, then we put our organization at risk as well. That being said, we could have pulled up and just said, well, we're going to hoard all our cash and sorry, no more loans. But that's certainly not our mission. Unlike some other times when we've had economic slowdowns or recessions, this happened in a week or two, as opposed to, when we have a recession that, you kind of see it coming and then things start to happen and you have a little more time to prepare. So we're all rushing in to try to help with cash flow and that sort of thing in the short term. I mean, when your revenue goes from something to nothing, literally overnight, you're scrambling just to keep the basics going. So the biggest effect really is just that dry up in cash flow. And so my organization and others locally have been trying to fill the gap. We don't have, obviously, the big funds that SBA has, but we've been lending money to kind of bridge people over. Borrowing money for something like this is really an imperfect solution because in this situation, you don't know what's coming out on the other side. Typically, when we make a loan, we're investing in growth. Right now, we're investing in short-term survival with no understanding or realization of when we're going to come out of that. From REDEC's mission perspective, we just got to keep chugging along and trying to figure out how to help these folks get through this.
In a bid to offer their students a chance to perform in front of people and allow the public an opportunity to view works from both past and present, Del Arte International has announced plans for an online season. The school announced this past week that its regular season has been delayed until September, and the online season will offer a way for fans, students, and Del Arte employees to stay engaged doing what they love best. Information on scheduling will be released through the school's social media channels, but the roster will include many of the school's most famous and provocative local pieces. Artistic director and co-founder spoke to Keat about how communities depend on the arts and creativity to help them get through difficult or traumatic times.
A mixture of both old and new, and it's a way of just doing what we do and hopefully putting it into the community in a way that's free and accessible for all of them as well. Our festival had to be moved. It was supposed to be in June and July. We moved it to September, but I think even that's a question mark right now. So I think the major effect, as I'm sure it is for most organizations and individuals, is the uncertainty of not really being able to plan in an effective, the way you might be used to. So that and we've applied for funds. We did get some PPP support, which was great. Thank you, Redwood Capital Bank. We are applying for some National Endowment for the Arts support through the CARES Act because we're supported by the NEA. But those are really short-term kinds of become more stopgaps than they are solutions to things. But I'm happy they're there and accessible to us. Our main thrust is to try to keep our people, and we'll keep them well, keep them thriving, keep them okay. Well, it's interesting to me to think about how we really gravitate towards art when we're stuck, like in a time like this. If you look at, we watch Netflix or we watch series or we gravitate towards to what's online or what's on film, which is all art, because it gives us a lens of, kind of a perspective. It lets us know we're not alone. They say that, that during the bubonic plague, Shakespeare wrote all of the sonnets, and I think it was King Lear, one of his greatest tragedies. Things that are we sometimes take for granted or may have taken for granted in the past.
Humboldt County took a big step toward an eventual reopening this week by requiring residents to wear face masks whenever they are in public. According to officials, the new rule dictates that people should wear masks before entering any building, before entering any enclosed open space, and even outdoors when 6 feet of distance from other people can't be maintained at all times. There are exemptions for children under 2, for people who have trouble breathing, and anyone who can't remove the masks without help from someone else. The masks are meant to protect the public from the person wearing the mask in case the user is infected but asymptomatic. Masks reduce the risk of transmission by limiting the spread of droplets. Authorities say that people need to remain aware that the facial coverings are not a substitute for social distancing. Humboldt County Health Officer Teresa Frankovich fielded questions from local media today and discussed newly released state guidelines on how to triage the treatment of coronavirus cases. The guidelines emphasize prioritizing younger patients to maximize survival rates.
I'm aware of the guidelines, and I was actually really grateful that the state provided those. There are lots of frameworks for making these kind of decisions, and I think we can all agree that what we don't want to happen in the event that there was sort of a catastrophic shortage of equipment is to be able to have doctors at bedsides trying to decide what they should do. So the whole idea of these frameworks is to give people the chance in advance to really think about how do we allocate resources if they are scarce. And so it's an important discussion to have, and I appreciate having another framework to look at. Area hospitals, all hospitals have their ability to manage this internally, and they are generally guided by ethics committees who take all of these considerations in to their decision making and then try and put something in place to help their staff. And so our local partners, I do know, are looking at sort of all these ethical guidelines, and you know, hospitals do this all the time, not because of the reasons here today with COVID, but because of other issues that come up around ethics in hospital settings. So it's an important thing for us to be able to look at, but it does not determine what a hospital does.
Frankovich was also asked whether the county is basing its efforts to reopen the economy on financial or public health concerns.
The two things are not mutually exclusive. Public health uses that social determinants of health lens to look at everything, which means it's not only infection that we look at causing illness or death, it's also societal things, economics, poverty, education, all of those things that impact the health status of individuals in our community. Other things, race, ethnicity, all of those issues come into play. So it is not a simple health or not health. Health is integrated in all these things. So we'll be using all of that as we look at this going forward. And again, it's a balancing act. We know there are consequences on both sides. Inaction, action. And there's no way to stay exactly where we are. So we're going to have to just keep balancing those as we move forward.
Lastly, as county residents spent their first day under the new requirement to wear face masks basically everywhere, Frankovich explained why the rule is necessary.
This is an important tool for us moving out of shelter in place, and as we start to make that plan, it's going to help keep us all safer out in the community. We believe that it's an educational piece primarily. I think people in the community want to keep each other safer. I know it's an inconvenience, as you can see from my mask. It's a pain right now. This one isn't particularly good, but it's important. And again, that idea that my mask protects you, yours protects me, we're in this together. So enforcement, if people are non-compliant, certainly is possible. But like many things we've been trying to do during this pandemic, we've been trying to use education and getting people to understand how what they does impacts the health of their community.
We'll be back after this message from KEAT Executive Director David Gordon.
I'm David Gordon, KEAT's Executive Director. We're living through times that have us all concerned about our health and livelihoods, about our family, friends, and community, and about what happens when this is all over. KEAT remains committed to being here by your side as we navigate this together. It means you'll continue to see exceptional reporting on PBS NewsHour every night. It means that all of our kids and teachers will be well served with excellent learning resources while schools are closed. And it means that you'll always have a place of refuge with favorites like Masterpiece, Nature, Nova, Great Performances, and more. Keat has served you for over 50 years. You know you can count on it, in these times maybe more than you ever have. I hope you receive great value from what Keat provides every day. We're here for you, and thanks to your support, we always will be. Stay safe and stay informed.
I'm James Faulk. On Thursday, Access Humboldt hosted an online dialogue and community forum that included Sheriff William Hansel and County Health Officer Teresa Frankovich, as well as editor Frank Sims from the Lost Coast Outpost. The presentation was aptly named The Economy, the Surge, and What's Next for Humboldt County. Sims, a longtime local journalist, spoke to the draining peculiarity of this moment we're all living through.
I wanted to start by just stepping back and acknowledging how the sort of big picture of what we're dealing with and how strange it's been for everyone. This new disease was discovered at the end of last year, halfway around the world, and now these days, more American citizens are dying of it than heart disease or cancer on a day-by-day basis, and those are usually our two top killers of Americans. We still know so little about this disease. We don't know how many people have contracted it exactly. We don't know how many people have died from it. We don't know the number of people who carry it and don't know that they carry it. And we've had to improvise as a society. We've had to improvise our response as we learn what it is and how it works. Early into this, a month ago, I heard somebody say that, well, if everybody in the world were able to stand stock still for 14 days, then no one would ever have any problems ever again. This would be gone. This disease would be gone from the face of the earth. That's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but it's sort of the one pole of a continuum of responses that that are conceivable. The other pole, I guess, would be everybody in the world contracting the virus tomorrow. What we've tried to do, I think, as a society, is to find a path that between those two poles that causes the least harm for the majority of people.
One focus of the meeting was determining what metrics to use in deciding when Humboldt County could open its commercial doors again.
I think people don't realize how good we have had it here as opposed to other counties. But we can't make any movement beyond our shelter in place until the state pivots and they start opening things up. That's why the state gave us a roadmap and said these are the 6 things that we need to go through to make sure that when the shelter in place is opened up, that you have these 6 things essentially in step with the state. Mm-hmm. And so we are preparing for that. And mm-hmm. Dr. Frankovich and the EOC, we're working on several things now to make sure that we can hit those points when the governor's office says we have that green light.
In some ways, this is going to be very local as we go forward. In some ways, we'll be looking at the entire state because we're all going to be involved in response. I think the governor's framework is really talking about those preparedness pieces that everybody needs to have as we move forward. I mean, every community really does need to have these pieces, and the idea is to make us ready to be able to deal with whatever comes as a result of opening, right? And so, when we look at those things, we're talking about one of the big things is the masking. And I know it's not necessarily popular, but we see it as a precondition for being able to ease restrictions. We know that as we start to, again, mix people from different households, we start to bring people together in common spaces, there's more opportunity for transmission. The things we can do as we move forward are to, even as we open, to keep social distancing principles in place, to do the frequent hand washing, to do the hand sanitizing, the cleaning of surfaces, all those things that we've already been talking about. But the masking is another tool that we can use to kind of decrease that spread of virus as we begin to combine people. So that's one piece of our framework going forward, and getting this in place will help us be ready when that announcement comes.
After this message from the Eureka Chamber of Commerce, we'll be right back.
Around the world, across the country, and here on the North Coast, heroes are emerging as doctors and nurses risk their health to save lives. Even everyday people working essential jobs are now becoming everyday heroes. They are our neighbors and friends. And today, here in Humboldt, many of the local businesses they work for are struggling. They need your help. They need your business. Shop online locally first and learn more about what our local businesses have to offer. Support your favorite restaurants by ordering takeaway. Drink local wines, spirits, ciders, and beers. Check and see if your favorite local vendors are delivering. Fresh, local seafood and produce are available direct as well as in local markets. Buy gift vouchers now to give out or save for later. Remember, many businesses have changed the way they do business. Find a local listing of vendors dedicated to serving our community at eurekachamber.com or on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or call 442-3738 for recommendations. Remember that behind practically every business is a family. This message brought to you by the Greater Eureka Chamber of Commerce.
We had been reading about this horrible crisis in Flint, which put thousands of children of the community at risk of being poisoned by lead in the water supply.
You've got citizens who were essentially saying to anyone who would listen, look, my hair is falling out. I have rashes. My children have rashes. We're afraid of this water. The water's discolored. There's something going on here that's unhealthy. We need somebody to pay attention.
We were told by the city that they were winterizing the system, but we had lived here for years at that point. We'd never experienced anything like that.
Leanne Walters was a citizen scientist who learned the science because she had twin boys, and one of her boys was being poisoned by the water, and his growth was being stunted.
Leanne was the one who figured out that her children had been poisoned by the water.
I'm James Faulk. Eureka Mayor Susan Seaman released her weekly message from the mayor's office this afternoon, reminding her constituents and others of some pivotal anti-COVID steps we can all take in our daily lives.
Those of you who are working in the field doing essential business are important players in this time of crisis. We encourage you all to take necessary precautions to stay safe. This is an anxious time for small business owners. The Federal Small Business Administration has recently begun implementation of large-scale relief programs that aim to mitigate the financial impact associated with nationwide shelter-in-place guidance. Without a doubt, these rollouts have come with numerous challenges. Fortunately, we have a team of local business leaders and financial partners working daily to try to make it less confusing. I want to encourage you to work with the North Coast SBDC to learn more about what's available to you. Their website, northcoastsbdc.org, has financial resources page that is updated daily to represent which lenders are able to help with specific programs. They also offer weekly Surviving Together webinars, which provide both valuable information about working in your small business, and it gives business owners an opportunity to commiserate on their situation. This is a difficult time for many business owners, and there's no shame in asking for help where it's needed. The North Coast SBDC can work with you confidentially to ensure you're getting the benefits available to help you keep community unemployment down and your business moving forward. Finally, please continue to do your part to control the community spread of COVID-19. We've been so proud to see that your actions so far have truly helped make it harder for this virus to spread. We're doing well, but we're not out of the woods. Remain sheltered in place, and if you absolutely must leave your home, practice social distancing and wear a mask.
The Boys and Girls Club of the Redwoods is raising money to offer essential workers childcare during the pandemic. Monica Rose, Club Executive Director, said the group is actively seeking donations and other funds to safely offer services at the Eureka Teen Center facility.
We are currently trying to raise money so that we can open an 8-week program to serve our children whose families are essential workers in the community. And our goal would be to serve 48 kids and have an extended day program so that we would be open early in the morning till late in the afternoon. We did a parent survey, and the survey results came back that our parents really need additional support, providing some time for their children to do homework and whatnot away from the home while their parents are working. We are trying to raise almost $80,000. In order to run this program, we are going to have a high staff-to-member ratio, and we're going to have additional cleaning supplies, which does increase the cost. If people are interested in supporting us, they could send a check to 939 Harris. or they could go onto our website and donate money through there. It's bgcredwood.org.
Are there any silver linings in your COVID quarantine? We've been amazed at the creative ways Humboldt County residents have been spending their time alone. And we'd like to thank all of those who've shared their adventures with us. This week, Bob Felter makes the perfect table. Keat board member Alex Stillman studies local architecture, and our own Shannon Perkins lives the good life in sunny Humboldt County.
With school out, I had plenty of time during this coronavirus epidemic, so I built a new table. The old one was falling apart, and the chairs were in pretty bad shape too. I bought new chairs, but I decided I'd build a table out of some old redwood decking from a deck I'd torn out, and it's all reused lumber. I would have never gotten around to doing this if it weren't for the coronavirus.
So right now you can see the Pythian Castle. The Knights of Pythias were there for many, many years. Now it's all housing upstairs and it's businesses on the bottom floor. Now you have a really transitional house. You have a Victorian cottage. You have a craftsman house. This is what I do. I walk around town taking photographs of buildings and post them on Instagram. It's quite fun for me. And the Instagram account is Arcata History for the Historical Site Society of Arcata.
Doesn't she look wonderful? We're still accepting smartphone videos of a minute or less from you and your family. We'll happily put you on TV and, make you famous in exchange for a few happy moments and some insight into how you're all getting along in the age of COVID. Send your submissions to production@keat-tv.org. That's all the time we have for tonight. We will be here again next week and each Friday until we beat this disease. The most important message we can impart has to do with your health. Do you have COVID? Do you need a doctor? Ultimately, it's a question only you can answer, but if you can weather the storm at home and in quarantine, please do so. Experts are clear that we need to keep as many beds, as well as doctors and nurses, as free as possible for those who are most at risk. That being said, if you have an emergency, call 911 and get help. And for all the most up-to-date information on COVID-19, our local response, or anything else related to public health or the coronavirus, you can visit www.humboldtgov.org. Send any comments and suggestions you may have about the show to production@keattv.org. Stay tuned, stay informed, and above all, stay healthy.